Okay, we got a couple videos on the docket. We got the vindication of Australia's worst female serial killer, but I do want to start out with how a CIA base
Smith
works.
is sitting on a Lufthansa machine bound to Frankfurt, Germany. Jane Smith is sitting on a Lufthansa machine bound to Frankfurt, Germany. She empties her second glass of red wine and fastens her seatbelt because the plane is about to land. When Jane exits the aircraft, she goes straight to customs. She shows the officer her American passport. It's black. "Why are you here?" the officer asks. "Supporting technical consultations at the consulate," Jane responds. The officer stamps her passport, and she passes through. Jane grabs some euros from an ATM, takes a cab to a nearby hotel, and checks in. You see, Jane lied a little just now, during the customs check. She is not working for a consulate, and despite her passport, she is no diplomat. Jane is a CIA agent, a hacker. She is visiting a covert
Okay, to be fair, which diplomat isn't? You know what I mean?
base of her agency, secretly set up within the American consulate in Frankfurt. But this base, in the heart of Europe, is just one of a giant network spanning all across the globe. What are their...
This is why I always use the term State Department employee rather than just simply CIA. It's interchangeable colloquially, but...
functions, and how do these bases operate on foreign territory?
CIA's global hacking program.
Spy stations, Methoden der CIA.
What are the Americans doing now?
Fern.
This video has boy in it multiple times. Let's go!
Jane enters the hotel room and drops off her bags. She was prepared for this trip.
By the way, Alex and Alexa are going to be here soon, as a matter of fact. In a couple of weeks. The Aussies are back.
She's been given instructions on how to get around in Frankfurt. Stores are closed on Sunday, gas stations are not a good place for fine dining, stuff like that. We all know this thanks to the extensive leaks called Vault 7 from a few years back. Generally, this video largely relies on leaked information and statements of retired agents.
Wait, you mean American diplomatic institutions are actually CIA spy bases? Oh my god! When the Iranian Revolution attacked the US embassy, they were actually attacking the spies that had couped their democratic government? Oh my god!
It was a 9-hour flight from Washington, D.C. to Frankfurt. Jane is pretty exhausted and takes a shower. She is very careful not to leave anything that could identify her unattended. She takes her phone and laptop with her to the bathroom. Freshly dressed, Jane takes the U5 subway towards Pollingesheim. She gets off at Gießener Straße, just a few hundred meters north from the consulate. Frankfurt hosts the largest US consulate in the world. Officially, it is serving American residents in the region, but in truth, it is doing much more than that.
Oh yeah.
At the main gate, Jane shows her black passport and is handed a yellow visitor's badge. She follows the signs to the employee entrance alongside the consulate building on the left. Jane holds up her yellow badge at the door and is buzzed into the building by a guard. Inside the building, Jane walks through a number of corridors and through a large heavy door to Post 1. A US Marine is waiting behind a glass window. Jane gives her the yellow badge and she gets a blue one instead. Jane can finally enter her new office and get to work. She calls her person of contact and gets to know the other agents at the station. In 2013, news broke that the US spied on then German Chancellor Angela Merkel's private phone for over 10 years.
The NSA may have been spying on Chancellor Angela Merkel.
A spokesman for the German leader described the idea as totally unacceptable.
The operation was run by the so-called Special Collection Service, a spy unit of the NSA and CIA. Officially, it does not exist. Unofficially, it is running spy operations from almost 100 US embassies all across the world, including Frankfurt. But Jane works for another unit here. She works for the European branch of the Center for Cyber Intelligence.
And these people are mostly Ivy grads? Yes. If you go to Yale, if you go to Harvard, you're going to get scouted, and this is what you're going to end up doing.
The CIA's hacking division. Jane and others are developing cyber weapons. There are over 1,000 hacking systems and several hundred million lines of code in the CIA's arsenal. Some of these hacking tools are extremely powerful. The CIA could turn devices from Apple, Google, Samsung, and many others into secret microphones. There are tools that bypass encryption from messengers like WhatsApp, Signal, or Telegram, allowing the agency to collect text and voice messages. But there are also attack systems like fine dining, which only work from up close. This is where Frankfurt's strategic location comes into play. The Schengen Agreement allows Jane to travel from Frankfurt to almost any European country without border control. If Jane wanted to penetrate high-security targets that are not connected to the internet, she could simply take a train, stick a USB drive loaded with malware into a target PC, and be back in Frankfurt by supper. Jane is a very talented hacker. If one day she decided to leave the CIA, she could have a very promising career as a cybersecurity expert. The CIA could turn devices...
Most of the hacking tools are just written into the devices by the manufacturers themselves. They're backdoors that are built into the system. They're not even really hacked, as in they just access a backdoor that is a pre-existing backdoor, because all these companies are completely in bed with the CIA and NSA. That's why we can't have China providing digital infrastructure, not because they would hack it, but it would be harder for the CIA. Exactly. They can't control you if you're using a phone they don't have a backdoor into that has security procedures, because they're not very good at their jobs. The CIA primarily operates by force, not by guile.
All she'd have to do is build a portfolio and launch her own website. Unfortunately, Jane is not very creative when it comes to designing. Luckily, she doesn't have to be. There is a fast, easy, and intuitive way to build a website with our sponsor, Odoo.
Oh my
God! Odoo is an all-in-one management...
Oh my God! That's a banger segue. I have to recognize that. I literally thought it was a part of the content. That's crazy. I'm done. I'm throwing the towel. That was an insane segue, bro. That's okay.
Management platform that lets you build a great-looking website in minutes. Just answer a few quick questions, select a theme you like, and customize it to your needs. Simply drag and drop blocks to add images or text. If you, like Jane, are out of creative ideas, AI can help you. With Odoo's intuitive website builder, you can easily change every aspect of your site, highlight text, change the shape of your pictures, or add animations to make your website really stand out. Check out Odoo by clicking on fern.deals/Odoo to build your very own website. Your first app is free for life, with a custom domain name free for 1 year. Jane is working at the base for a time now when she gets a phone call. Her superiors need her expertise at another location. She says goodbye to her colleagues, checks out of her hotel room, and buys a single malt whiskey with her remaining euros in the duty-free shop at the airport. Jane's next destination is Australia.
Wait, what? Five Eyes! Why would she go to Australia? Wait, the CIA? You mean to tell me that the CIA operates in Australia? Wait, hold on. Or no, that makes no sense to me, mate. Or no.
Jane gets off the plane and walks to customs, and things do not go smoothly. One of the officers seems suspicious about her and selects Jane for secondary screening. But she is prepared. Agents like Jane are usually trained here, Camp Peary, or how most people in the CIA call it, the farm, a roughly 10,000-acre piece of land near Williamsburg, Virginia. It was established during World War II as a military training center. Later, it was transformed into a camp for Italian and German war prisoners. In 1951, the CIA took over and turned it into a secret spy school. Of course, not officially. In fact, the CIA has built an entire fake city. There are multiple houses and dormitories for students and staff. For training, the site has several shooting ranges.
Bring burner phones to China, keep your personal phone at home. Why? I don't give a shit. Oh no, the Chinese government is gonna spy on me. What are they gonna find out? My undying loyalty to Xi Jinping? Like, what the Yeah, it would be really scary if the Chinese agencies spied on me to find out how much of a dick rider I was. Yeah, I like to keep a level playing field. Everyone can have my data. I already know the American agencies are already up my asshole, so might as well give in to the Chinese ones. I'll get a Huawei phone myself and personally speak sweet nothings about Xi Jinping into it. Okay, by the end of the trip, I'm gonna have maxed out social credit. Okay, they're gonna open up a new tier. They're gonna be like, dude, this Hasan guy, he's got platinum tier social credit. He can now take the high-speed train for free. Okay, you know how like if you get a low enough social credit, you can't get on the high-speed trains? Mine is gonna be so goddamn high, I will have a new tier. Yeah, I'm gonna be grinding that shit like a gold farmer on WoW.
Boathouses at the river, driving courses, and an airfield. Students learn everything they need to know about life as a secret agent in the field, from basic weapons trainings all the way to the handling of explosives, how to evade pursuers, and field surveillance. Students practice how to infiltrate a border that is tightly guarded by watchtowers and police dogs. Enemy capture is simulated by kidnapping students from their dorm and interrogating them. There is even a mock prison where students learn how to deal with solitary confinement.
Not gonna lie, this is kind of cool. Like, I mean, obviously it sucks, and I know why they're doing it, and it's dog shit, but like, it would be kind of cool to be trained like that. I feel like, I don't know.
If training needs to be even more hardcore, students are brought to Harvey Point, just a few hours south of the farm. This is the place where, among other things, the operation to kill Osama bin Laden was planned and trained.
Okay, well, that was a big L, so I'm not gonna lie. Maybe that shit didn't take. Okay, this is where they trained the Osama bin Laden mission, Delta Force. That's why there's 11 downed Black Hawks in the region. This is where they train the inevitable Black Hawk crash, like so you're ready for it when it happens, because it's gonna happen. There's just no way that it's not gonna happen. You get in a Black Hawk, it's gonna go down, famously. Sick paintball team though.
Jane stands in
They
front of...
still almost failed. They lost like one of their helicopters. They barely did it. It was a huge shit show. They were huge fuck ups.
Jane stands in front of a customs officer at the Australian airport. She remembers how to survive secondary screening. According to a CIA training manual...
What do you mean survive secondary screening? Bitch, I get secondary screening every time. I'm still alive. What are we talking about? Like, okay, no disrespect to Fern, but I don't think it's like a... I guess if you're a white woman, it hits different. You're like, what? You're treating me like a Muslim.
The two most common questions in this situation are why are you here and where are you staying? Jane learned how to maintain her cover, no matter what. When asked, Jane gives a quick and concise answer. No pause and no delaying sounds between questions and response, just as the manual says. She knows that any unnecessary information or overly specific answers might lengthen the interview, so she keeps it short and simple. She tries to stay calm. No swallowing, no lip biting, nothing that can make her seem nervous. And it works. After a few minutes, the officer hands Jane her passport and she's free to enter the country. Jane is sitting with her colleagues in a casino in Alice Springs. A small...
I was about to say, wait, this is literally where the Boy and I Did the Thing went. But it is pretty funny that, like, of course, the Australia mention is going to come with a casino. That's all they do out there, bro.
Right in the heart of the Australian outback. There are a lot of Americans all around her, which is not unusual. Most of them work at Pine Gap, a nearby military base run by the Australian and US government. Jane and others are playing a weird American dice game called Craps when a group of Australian YouTubers join them. Together they drink, they laugh, and maybe talk a bit too much about their work.
No! No!
The Americans in this casino are no ordinary soldiers, and Pine Gap is not your usual military base. Pine Gap is a top-secret spy facility.
Wait, did this happen? Wait, that, like, this is a, like, they actually linked up with Jane? Like, what the fuck's going on? I'm a little confused. They are mentioned in the start, but I didn't, wait, no, right? Jane's not a real person, right? I assume this is like, is Jane a real person? Keep watching it, please.
Roughly 1,000 people work at the so-called Joint Defense Facility, which is a quite misleading name, in fact. In its early years, Australians only worked as cooks, painters, or janitors. While today almost half the staff is Australian and the other half American, in reality the CIA and the NSA call the shots here. While Pine Gap was originally used as a defensive site to keep track of Soviet nuclear missiles during the Cold War, US intelligence quickly realized how useful this base could truly be. Today, it is the US's most important intelligence collection station in the world. There are 38 radar dishes all across the base. Many of them are enclosed in random, huge golf ball-like structures. They are built to hide and protect the antennas inside them. Most of these antennas communicate with US spy satellites, like Orion 3, 5, 7, and 9. These spy satellites are geosynchronous. They move in orbit with exactly the same speed as the Earth's rotation. This way, the CIA can intercept almost all wireless communication from Europe, Africa, and Asia, 24/7. The immensely powerful NSA spy programs, Echelon and X-Keyscore, that Edward Snowden made public in 2013, are also operated from Pine Gap. These programs are used to systematically collect everything, from online chats to phone calls and mails. At the heart of the base sits the operations building. On a total of around 20,000 square meters, roughly the size of a small IKEA, the CIA, NSA, and other agencies analyze all incoming intelligence data. Pine Gap played a vital role in America's war on terror. It provided real-time data for soldiers on the battlefield in Iraq and Afghanistan, and it was used to locate targets for US drone strikes, during which hundreds of civilians were killed. A very recent report indicates that Pine Gap intelligence may have assisted Israeli forces to attack targets in Gaza. For that reason, a group of protesters tried to block the entrance to Pine Gap at the end of last year.
Nope.
Pine Gap has been criticized by many different groups before. Some people have
Can't
even
do it,
managed to
mate.
enter the facility. More recently, these Australian YouTubers, for example. Be sure to check out their video. It inspired us to make this video in the first place.
Should I be more hyped?
Did you hear that? It sounded like bombs going off.
No.
Jane has seen
No.
places few people in the world have ever been to. Covert hacking bases in the heart of Europe, training facilities in the US, and spy stations in Australia. She knows many of the CIA's secrets, like the fact that in 2000, an American soldier from Pine Gap reportedly started a secret swingers club in Alice Spring, which held wild sex parties. But there are places that not even Jane will ever have access to.
Ooh, black sites.
On September 6, 2006,
By the way, you want to know something crazy about the boomerang? Like the boomerang of violence? What? The boomerang of fascism and violence? That inevitably the stuff that you do overseas loops back around to obviously like the domestic, the imperial boomerang, like the imperialism that you engage in and the activities that you engage in overseas. So like, you know, the countrymen of other nations inevitably comes back and loops around and is tested on American citizens as well. No, not blowback. Imperial boomerang is a little different than blowback. That boomerang is basically best exhibited with the invention of LRADs. LRADs are long-range acoustic devices originally used in, I believe, 2003 in Iraq. First deployed against like civil disobedience happening in Iraq against Iraqi civilians, which are now deployed by American police departments regularly against American domestic civil disobedience. That literally, like, first you invent a new type of weapon, you use it on like Iraqi people, and you're like, oh yeah, they're not real people. Who gives a shit, right? And then you use it on your own. Like in a couple of years, you inevitably loop back around and use it on your own citizens, right? You use the war zones like as a testing ground. So basically, the black site situation is identical as well. The black site situation is identical. First applied in the war on terror, also utilized in Chicago by the Chicago Police Department under the watchful eye of Rahm Emanuel. So something to remember.
President George Bush admitted what many people had already suspected.
So I'm announcing today that Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, Abu Zubaydah, Ramzi bin al-Shibh, and 11 other terrorists in CIA custody have been transferred to the United States Naval Base at Guantanamo Bay.
In this speech, Bush acknowledged that the CIA was running a network of secret prisons all across the world, so-called black sites. The most well-known CIA prison is Guantanamo Bay in Cuba. The prison was built for international terrorist suspects. Just 4 months after the attacks on 9/11, the first 20 people arrived. But Guantanamo is no regular prison. In most cases, there are no official charges, no trials, and no formal convictions.
What the fuck is this CGI? What do you want? They're not using AI. Like, I'm happy that they're using CGI. Don't complain.
A total of 800 people were brought here. Some have been exposed to enhanced interrogation techniques, most commonly known as torture.
Yeah.
Often, the CIA did not have clear evidence on their inmates. The exact number and locations of black sites are still unknown. Some were run by foreign secret services. At least 10 of these prisons were built and operated by the CIA. Over 50 governments participated in some way. If the CIA suspected someone of being a terrorist, they sometimes became part of the agency's extraordinary rendition program, or simply kidnapping. The suspect was illegally shackled, blindfolded, and transported via plane.
Yeah, extraordinary rendition. See, America does stuff like kidnaps you. Now, this is okay. It's not hostage taking like Hamas, okay? This is not hostage taking like Hamas because the United States did it and we named it extraordinary renditions.
The suspect was illegally shackled, blindfolded, and transported via plane to one of the CIA's black sites. Some of these prisons were allegedly planned from the CIA base in Frankfurt, while the farm was allegedly involved in rendition flights. One of the most important prisons of the CIA was here, on a Polish military base near the small village of Stare Kikute. Inside this two-story villa, the CIA built one of its very first prisons after 9/11, codename Quartz. The CIA tortured multiple suspects here. As compensation for using the place, the CIA paid at least $15 million and outfitted the base with $300,000 worth of security cameras. After many years of denial, in 2014, the Polish government finally admitted that it hosted the secret CIA prison. Since then, the European Court of Human Rights has found multiple European countries responsible for letting the CIA violate several human rights in prisons on their territory.
I like that normally black sites are like in operation in places like Egypt and stuff, but then you also have one in the fucking middle of Europe in Poland because they just don't know what's going on. They're like, what? The Americans, they wanted to build the house we like. You know, same shit.